Welcome back. Now, the death of 21 teenagers at the eNCA Tavern has put the issue of underage drinking in the spotlight. A 13-year-old was among those who died, and it's alleged the Tavern was frequented by under-18s. So to discuss this even further, we're now joined by Audrey Vermeulen from the South African National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. Audrey, thank you for your time and good morning to you. Just share with us, I suppose, your personal reaction upon hearing of, the 21 teenagers as young as 13 years old losing their lives within a tavern.
I cannot describe the feeling when I heard this. I think from a parent's point of view, we all are devastated, and we really feel for the parents of these children that passed on, and we really are sending our condolences as eNCA to them. And I think no parent can walk away thinking, it couldn't happen to me, because we all have our children that we are worried about, we're concerned about them. But I think the most devastating for us was that this tragedy happened on the 26th of June in the early morning hours, and that is our International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Drug Trafficking that we've been celebrating every year with United Nations. So for us, it's even a bigger tragedy that this happened on the same day.
Yeah, I can imagine the blow, Audrey, especially with the work around, raising awareness around the dangers of abusing alcohol, specifically if you are a teenager and you are underage. But how prevalent are these scenes around the country? Yes, we've reported on the eNCA Tavern tragedy. However, there are many more that are unreported. I'm talking about scenes where young underage children are seen, witnessed, buying, consuming alcohol.
You are quite right. We see this as a trend, and unfortunately it takes incidents like this to really put the spotlight on the issues around adolescent drinking, and especially binge drinking that we see as a very major concern. Even the Youth Risk Survey that was done many years ago in 2008 warned us that adolescents are drinking excessively, and we see that in our treatment programs of eNCA. We see an increase. We had an increase this year of 17% of them coming forward with alcohol use disorders. So we really are seeing this trend throughout the country. If you look at our Sekendo statistics, they reflect the same that we are seeing in our 31 treatment centers. It is a great concern for eNCA.
With the stats you have before you, Audrey, what is the root cause of binge drinking and the abuse of alcohol amongst children? I remember Gareth and I, when the news broke out, one of the questions we asked ourselves was, why is it that underage teenagers, whom we've heard that we're actually celebrating a pence down end of exam or school, celebration elsewhere, and moved it to eNCA Tavern, and then we wondered amongst ourselves, why do underage teenagers want to celebrate, finishing school with alcohol? Couldn't they go to a park? Couldn't they just hang out, do whatever that's fun without binging on alcohol? But what's the root cause of this amongst teenagers, do you think?
The root cause is more than one thing for me. If we look at our society as a whole, we are a drinking culture. So we have already sensitized our teenagers to this. We are not good role models when it comes to drinking ourselves as adults. So children are learning from us as well, how to deal with stress, how to deal with high levels of pressure that they are experiencing, also around the school performances and what they need to achieve as young people. And I think there's a general hopelessness that our teenagers are feeling, and they are really reaching out to this. We also believe that from an environmental point of view, we have a lack of other alternatives that could look at this. So if we look at Scenery Park specifically, we've got a coalition there, anti-drug coalition that was established from CATCA's side, that we work very closely with them. And there is a lack of recreational facilities. There's a lack of other alternative activities where teens can turn to. So for them, it's also, remember, the developmental age that they are in. They are there where they are experiencing and experimenting with their identity, of finding their own independence. So they are very much vulnerable to exposure to alcohol use.
With the events that took place in the early hours of this weekend, when those 21 teenagers lost their lives, how do you think we can learn lessons as a country move forward and do better? How do you think we can definitely change, just in terms of the conversations that parents are having with the kids, schools, churches, communities, the police, tavern owners themselves? What responsibility do you think we have now as a collective in moving forward and making sure that this never happens again?
I think our responsibility comes from each one of us making sure that we know what is our role that we have to play. And if I really think about it, we have the most amazing policies available, but it's always the implementation, of those policies. So we do have the Liquor Act that really governs liquor traders, but we also need to look at the National Drug Master Plan, because in there is the harm reduction strategies, and part of that is the training of our liquor traders to make them aware of the risk of serving to underage patrons or underage people. And one of the risks is to teach them that it affects the brain, it affects that child's development from early on. And we know that the brain is the most affected organ by drinking or using any other substance. So for me, it goes back to our policies and the implementation of our policies. It goes back to training our liquor traders and making them responsible for trading and keeping to the rules and the bylaws of that specific area. But most of all, we need to work with the families, and we need to empower our parents. Our parents are overwhelmed. They don't know how to be good parents. So we have to look at changing the parenting style, doing programs that empowers our families and gets us back to where we used to be, where we as a community take charge of all our children's lives, and we all say one village, one child, so that we really start implementing those good values that we have. But most of all, work with the children. We work with them from a very young age. We've got puppets programs. You have to start building resilience in children from a very young age, and on the continuum provide these different evidence-based prevention programs and see prevention as a science.
Right.
And lastly, that we need funding for prevention. Prevention is the worst funded from all our programs in the country. And we really need government to take our hand on these prevention programs and provide us with the resources to do that.
Well, I appreciate you speaking to us this morning, Audrey. Thank you so much for your time. Audrey Vermeulen from the South African National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. Thank you for your time this morning.